It's a little windy today, so you'll probably catch...
It was super windy when I was driving over here.
Yeah, you'll probably catch some of that in the mics.
Oh, this is a sick intro shot. All right, we're here with Jeremy Arviso. And there's a car creeping up behind us.
And then we'll make a left right here.
Yeah, I'm just following you, by the way.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, so for my viewers, I don't know Jeremy very well, but I asked him to do this interview, and I really appreciate it. First, I found out about you through Heavy Pedal, which is rad. You're wearing one of the jerseys there. Introduce yourself.
Sure. I'm Jeremy Donovan Arviso. I am Dene, Hopi, Pima, and Donoatum. There are 4 tribes here in Arizona. I was born and raised here in Phoenix, and I actually have known Jesse and the guys for, geez, probably about 10 years maybe, I don't know.
Jesse from Heavy Pedal?
Yeah, I actually got introduced to them through Victor Vasquez, their old designer. Yeah, you know what? Cycling for me was out of necessity, you know, not having a vehicle, and also just because it's fun. Quick way to get around. When I lived in San Francisco, it was from 2001 to 2009. That's when fixed gear culture really took off, and the customization of bikes, you know, colors, frames, wheels, handlebars, style, and everything just kind of took off. And that's when I really noticed it. There was a group out of San Francisco called MASH.
Yeah, I've seen some of those MASH videos.
Yeah.
There's a really famous skateboard photographer. His name's Gabe Morford, and he did one of their very first videos.
Yeah, the skateboarding and fixed gear culture was closely integrated in San Francisco at that time. There was a lot of skaters that were riding and vice versa, so it was a pretty cool time for the city to live there and see that whole scene blow up. It's kind of the same time around when the streetwear really popped off too. It was right there on the West Coast, the Bay Area, Los Angeles, New York, Tokyo. So you saw a lot of fixed gear culture explode in, you know, metropolitan cities. So at the time I didn't have a bike, so I was skating, but eventually I finally got a bike. I just didn't realize how expensive they were. But a friend of mine from Japan, he helped me build my first bike. Yeah, I realized how quick and easy it was to get around on a bike, man. Like, and San Francisco is known for being, you know, there's a lot of hills, but you can actually get around the whole city on a bike. It's pretty wild. If you know how to get around the city, you can get around and figure out how to get from one place to the next just by using the streets, the trails, a lot of bike paths. There's ways around. It's not that big of a city. It's like 7 miles by 7 miles. So.
And you're riding fixed today, yeah?
Yeah, this bike was a gift from a friend of mine in San Francisco. I went to go stay with him back in like 2018, and I painted his room, and he was getting it ready to set up as an Airbnb. Painted his room and his spare bedroom, and I did some paintings, kind of like decorated it, and then he gave this to me. I didn't even know he was going to give it to me. He just said, yeah, you can have that bike. And it sat dormant at my house for a while until I started riding again, which was about 4 years ago.
Nice. Before the pandemic?
Yeah, right before the pandemic, I started to ride a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
But I was traveling a lot, so I was hardly ever home.
Let's keep talking about bikes, because I'm sure you know my YouTube channel is mostly about bikes. So,
yep.
When did your love for bikes start? Was it there in San Francisco, or was it earlier than that? Or
Oh man, earlier for sure.
yeah.
I started to. Well, I'm a kid from the '80s, so
Me too.
in the '80s, BMX and skating was like brand new, and it was like the cool thing to do, man. Skateboarding and BMX trick riding was just like exploding. There was movies about both.
This is where Jesse meets every other Saturday.
Oh, really?
Right here in this, right in front of us.
Oh, that's right.
Do you remember any of your bikes from when you were growing up?
Well,
Just little BMX bikes.
they were literally bikes that I built because my family didn't have money to buy me, expensive bike, So
Yeah.
back then I lived in New Mexico, and my cousins, they all lived with my grandmother out on the reservation, the Navajo reservation, and that was about 15 miles from where I was living at the time, in this little small town called Farmington, and I would go spend the weekends with them here and there, go swim in the river, ride horses, shit like that. It was real fun to me. That's also where I got introduced to silversmithing and weaving, which is what my grandmother did every night after work. Work,
Wow.
as in they had fields where my family is farmers. They'd go out and work in the fields all day. After working in the fields all day, they'd come home, and it was a really cool environment to grow up in the 80s for that little small time that I was there, and I learned a lot while I was there. But they had bike pieces all over, and so my cousins and my uncles would just put bikes together for us. And that's how I got introduced to it and learned how to change out a tube and change a tire and swap out a crank. I didn't even know what these pieces were called back then.
Yeah.
They were just bike pieces, and so I didn't learn what any of those were called until later. But I learned how to build a bike when I was really young and take it apart and put it back together. So it's kind of like something that's always been there. And so when I got back into riding again, it was really, it brought back those childhood memories.
Was someone there really into bikes? They just had a bunch of bike parks laying around?
Yeah, well, like I said, it's out of necessity. On the reservation, everything's spread out. So if you didn't have a horse,
Yeah.
you could have a bike and you could get somewhere a lot quicker. But a lot of them were like old Schwinn's, just really old bikes, with like 8 hangers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So by the time like the BMX craze came around, my parents didn't have money, so they bought me like a really cheap Kmart bike, and I just remember breaking it the first week because I used to jump a lot.
Yeah.
And I cracked the frame like literally within a week. And then my dad took it to his shop and tried to weld it together. He welded it together, and I broke it again that same weekend. But and that's the thing, I always broke every bike that I had because I was just kind of a little wild on it. I loved to jump, I loved going fast, and I wasn't afraid of getting hurt. And I never wore helmets or protective gear, like when you're on the res.
Yeah.
You don't have none of that shit. You're just kind of like rugged and real, and I used to see these kids with all this protective gear and helmets and shit, and it looked cool, but I don't know, it seemed like it was a little bit too much. That's why when I started seeing these guys that were, I moved back to Phoenix in 1987, and that's when I started seeing like the half pipes.
Yeah.
And people were skating and riding bikes in them. And that was also the first time I seen Suicidal Tendencies.
Nice.
They played at I used to live, my family's from the area of 16th Street and Indian School.
Okay.
And there was a park right there called Madison Park. And there was a park jam.
There's an art supply store there.
There was a park. Yeah, there was it used to be I think it was a Smitty's. There used to be a branch of grocery stores called Smitty's back then. But there was a Smitty's right there. But it was a fun time back then. Like, I rode my bike everywhere, and I don't know what brand it was. It was just some really cheap bike that my grandparents got me. I have no clue what brand, but I knew there was like Redline, there was Diamondback, there was like Haro Master. I mean, those were all the dope bikes. There's just no way in hell I'd have any of that, because you know, I come from a really poor family, and we didn't have that kind of shit, you know. So I had to make with whatever I had, you know. And so, and that kind of translated into a lot of stuff later in life that I adapted to. Is like, it doesn't matter what you have, it just matters what you do with it. So same thing with this bike. It's given to me, and you know, I still have it. I don't really see the need to buy anything until I absolutely need it, which is probably going to end up being a road bike, but not in the immediate future, because I honestly don't have time to ride like that. I wish I did.
So tell me your just a real brief your timeline from going from Phoenix to New Mexico to San Francisco.
Oh, well, so I was born and raised in Phoenix, and I moved all over the Southwest.
With your mom? Or?
Yeah, my mom and my sister. Albuquerque, moved to Salt Lake City in Utah, moved to Phoenix.
And you were usually going to places where you had family, though?
Mostly, yeah. We always lived in the inner city, so we never lived on the reservation. We were city Indians. And we always lived in downtown. It was kind of weird. You know, that kind of that's why I had such an easy transition moving to San Francisco, because I lived in the Tenderloin, which is like right down.
I did too, actually.
Yeah.
I lived at Hyde and Geary.
Oh, no way. I was on Hyde and O'Farrell. That's cool,
That's
man.
1 block away.
I worked at that bar called Julep, like right around the corner from here's Hyde and O'Farrell, or Hyde and Geary. The bar's right here. I worked there for 3 years. I moved all over the Southwest, finally settling back in Phoenix again, and then I graduated in 01, moved to San Francisco for 9 years, came back to Phoenix. I didn't know anybody.
Graduated?
From college.
Okay.
Yeah. I dropped out of high school. I did my own thing for a couple of years, and I realized it wasn't going anywhere, and so I went back to school. I got my GED, and I saw a Macintosh computer. I was like, I want to learn how to use that. And so they started teaching me, you know, how to use the scanners. And I was like, oh, so I can use my art and combine this together? I'm like, oh, this is dope. I got to learn this. And that was my mission, my goal. And I did it. And then I graduated, moved to San Francisco. And
with like a graphic design?
Yeah. So
So you got a graphic design degree?
Yeah, I got a graphic design degree.
Moved to San Francisco?
Moved to San Francisco. Couldn't find a job. Finally found a job at this venture capitalist magazine doing like really entry-level design work. Super boring.
Yeah, like layout stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I worked at a bar at night, 2 nights a week as a doorman. I was able to eke my way through an existence there because it was so expensive and I wasn't used to it. I didn't really know anybody.
We're gonna check out these falls real quick.
For sure.
These pigeons are healthy.
Right? Yeah, they're fat. That's some cool B-roll.
Oh, we got some nice shadows now. So, on your Instagram, I know you talk about being sober quite a bit. Did you want to get into that, or?
Oh yeah, most definitely. I'm a big advocate of living a sober life.
Yeah, I kind of got that feeling. So.
Yeah, the reason why is just because my whole life I was around drugs and alcohol, domestic violence, a lot of really bad situations. A lot of those situations arise from substance abuse, poverty, just the ghetto, gangs, violence, all that shit's intertwined, literally. And you realize that once you get sober, how you educate yourself more about, especially if you're a BIPOC person, you start to realize that there are systemic, the government has put things together in a way that will keep you in that same cycle of self-destruction. And it's pretty messed up, but once you get sober and free yourself from that and start to heal yourself, your mind, your body, your spirit, everything that those alcohol and drugs destroy, you free yourself literally, and you start to do amazing stuff. And that's I definitely can attest that I am living proof that you can do that, because everything I've done in the past 3.5 years has been possible because I live a drug and alcohol free life. I talk about how I lived in San Francisco, and one of the most musically artistic, cultural places that you can go to. But if you're drunk and high all the time, it doesn't really matter. It's just a tourist city that you're living in, And I realized that I wasn't really, I did a lot of stuff there. Don't get me wrong. I learned a lot. I traveled the whole world from there. But I also learned how to be a really good alcoholic, and I did stuff that I'm not too proud of, but all that's behind me now. When I moved here, same thing happened. Got back into the same stuff. Doesn't matter where you go, other side of the planet, you're gonna find the same type of people that drink and do drugs, even if they speak a different language. It's alcohol and drugs. They don't see color, race, religion, or any of that stuff. All it sees is like a vulnerable human being, and it just takes hold of you. But once you free yourself from all that, it's amazing what you can do and what you can put your mind to. And
how did you get out of that routine? And how many tries did it take? And any advice for sticking with it?
Geez, you know what? I get asked that a lot. And what happened to me is I actually had to go to prison. I got a DUI on no joke, July 4th, which is probably one of the times when there's a lot of people in jail for DUI, and it was my second one. And yeah, my public defender's like, there's no way you're gonna get out of this. You gotta do 4 months, 120 days. It's like, I can, you know, ride this out as long as you want, or you can get it taken care of as soon as possible. I'm like, you know what, let me take care of a few things and I'm just gonna go in and get it done. So I kind of got my life squared away and figured out some things, and I picked a day that I was gonna go in. And then I just kind of had fun, you know. I'm like, all right, well, I know that when I go in, I'm gonna change my life. You know, I'm not gonna be able to do anything in there. So I'm gonna take that time to really focus on myself and get better. And it's exactly what I did. Went in there, 4 months, you know, and it was weird because it was COVID 2020, you know. So it was the perfect place to be because nobody could do anything anyways. It changed my life, you know. I had a very strong spiritual experience in there as well. Native Americans in prison are able to practice their religion or spiritual beliefs, and they had a sweat lodge in there, and I was able to participate in the last sweat lodge that they had at that facility before COVID hit. And I believe that that experience is what really helped me get to where I'm at today.
Wow.
Along with the program that I set up for myself in, you know, recovery. You know, I just really focused on my goals, my plan, and my routine. There's no big secret on sobriety. You know, it's just waking up every day, doing this, writing things down. You know, writing goals down, crossing them off, keeping your day just completely packed with stuff. Yeah, there's a strong brotherhood in the criminal penal system for Native Americans. There's a...
And so I watched an interview with you, and you talked about you got more into your Native history later in life. Is that correct?
Yeah. I had more sense of self after prison. So I read a lot of books while I was in there, and that really opened up my mind. Growing up, you don't really, there's no handbook, you know, on how to be like Native American or indigenous or anything like that. You're born indigenous and that's who you are. And in some aspects, you know, maybe a handbook wouldn't be such a bad idea, you know, because there's things that a lot of Native Americans don't even know about themselves, you know.
Yeah.
There's non-Native people who know more about us than we do, you know, and it's kind of it's just one of those things where anthropology, you know, people who study cultures, you know, they're more interested in, you know, our tribal beliefs than we are, you know. It's kind of just one of those things. You don't ask to be born indigenous, you're just born indigenous, and it's almost like something to live up to. And it's, you know, a lot of people really don't think about that part, that we're just humans like you, we just happen to be Native American and indigenous, and that just makes us either special or cursed. You know what I'm saying? So I never really got into reading about who I was until later in life, because I didn't feel like I had to.
Yeah. Take that if you need to.
Oh no. It's like, why do I need to read about somebody who I already am, you know? But then when you get older, you come into contact with people who question you about how much you know about yourself. And that's where you start to feel kind of guilty and ashamed about who you are because you don't know. My generation, Generation X, we're the children of the children whose parents were taken away, you know, and they were beaten, their hair were cut, they were, you know, sexually assaulted, they were murdered, they were, man. And this is stuff that I didn't learn until, like, you know, very recently, what happened to a lot of our our family members. And I always wondered why my family never talked about boarding school and stuff like that. They just were never and they were always really mean, and I didn't understand why. I just thought that's just how our people were, but it's not. It's because of what had happened to us in the American assimilation process is what made them like that. We're not a mean people. We're not a mean race. Just what happened to us in the 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s that has made a lot of those people very angry and that's why alcoholism and drug abuse is so bad, is there's no other coping mechanism to deal with what happened with that. And so that's why alcoholism, substance abuse is very prevalent in BIPOC people and Native Americans. And so it was important for me to get better and end that cycle, because it's one that leads to the exact same place, like a cycle, a
vicious cycle.
Oh yeah, it's brutal, man, and I just was tired of getting the same results, and I tried to do it differently, and there's no different way that you can do drugs or alcohol. It's the same thing, and the results are always going to be the same too. And once you get tired, and here's the thing, another thing I tell people is you have to be tired of it. You have to be ready to quit, and for me, it just, my health got really bad. I had like type 2 diabetes, I had hypertension, high blood pressure, I had high cholesterol, I was like vitamin deficient, I was dehydrated, I was taking like 7 different medications. It was bad. I didn't realize how I had really screwed myself up until the very end, and I started to repair myself when I was locked away. But when I got out is when the real work began and the real recovery. The first year I looked sick, my body, I was like really skinny. I didn't have any structure in my face, and it was really rough, man. The first year was hard. Second year was a little better. I was getting stronger, and I got my routine was very, very structured, and same how it is now. I've built that for myself, and that's how I live my life now, is based on that structure, and helping others, is what I felt is a really, it's kind of like the 12, what the 12-step people do. I don't do 12-step personally, but a lot of the belief system and the way that I live my life is right in line with how the 12-steppers do their thing. I feel that my approach is unique to me, and I think I encourage people, if they're looking to go down that road, that you find what works for you, because we're all different. Not everything's going to work the same for everybody. AA doesn't work for everybody. You just got to find out what works for you and stick with it, and that's the key, is to stick with it. And you can find people out there that are sober, and there's a lot, actually. And I also noticed that I didn't really like being around people anymore. I stick to myself a lot. I don't really go out too much anymore. I'm super busy. The changes in my life that I've made have afforded me to be a much better designer and an artist, and a pretty sought after one as well. My clientele in the last year has been the Phoenix Suns, the NFL, Nike. I've worked with the Heavy Pedal. I've always looked up to them as a cyclist. I've worked for the BBC studios in London. All of that wouldn't have been possible if I hadn't have, quit the bullshit.
Yeah, for sure.
And so that has really changed my life for the better. And I have a son. He's 12 years old, and it's made me a much better father. You know, I mean, I was always there for him, but I was never present. You know, like I was there, but I wasn't because my mind was intoxicated. You know, and so
for sure.
I wasn't there. You know, and now I'm completely there, and it's an amazing feeling. He's autistic, so he needs more attention and care than most children do. So I'm able to be that parent for him. So it's incredible to be that person for him, because I never had that. You know, I didn't have a dad who was there for me. So being there for him means the world.
So you've been drawing, I'm guessing, your whole life. I know you were into graffiti.
Yeah.
How long were you like heavily into graffiti?
So I got into that the summer of 8th grade. Morning. Summer of 8th grade. I had already kind of screwed around with it when I was younger, but it was like Bart Simpson kind of shit, you know?
Yeah.
Nothing really,
yeah,
you know, it wasn't anything. It was graffiti because it was vandalism, but it wasn't like style writing. And I didn't learn that until the summer of 8th grade when I met these kids at summer school. And
where was this at?
They were writing their names really, really cool. I went to summer school
Was it Phoenix?
It was actually in Chandler, of all places.
Okay.
So my dad got stabbed in Madison Park. He almost died. He got stabbed like 12 times. And after he got better, my mom didn't want to live in our old neighborhood anymore. So
like Central Phoenix?
Yeah. We ended up moving out to the Gila River Reservation, which is on the border of Chandler.
Yeah.
And we lived there, which was far from everything, and it really sucked. But that's where we were at. This is the early 90s in Phoenix, and the freeways and a lot of walls were just completely crushed. And I finally met these kids. They were from Anaheim, and they started to teach me their style of writing. And that same year, I went to California for the very first time. And that's where I saw graffiti in LA. And I just like, holy shit, this is fucking dope. Then I saw this movie called Style Wars. Mm-hmm. I remember actually seeing that as a kid, and I had no clue what it was. But I liked it because of the breakdancing, because I was breakdancing back then. The graffiti aspect I didn't understand because we didn't have subway trains.
Yeah.
Saw it again, and I was just like, wow, this is dope. I bought the book Subway Art. I remember I ordered it from Changing Hands bookstore on Mill Avenue, and it was a big book. When it came in the mail, I just studied it.
Who were some people you looked up to back then?
Yeah, my homeboy Carlos, he writes Mesk. He's the dude who really schooled me on writing, and he was in this crew on the south side. He was from the south side, but he was getting into a lot of shit, and his dad was sick of his shit, and so he shipped him off to Chandler to live with his mom. And that's where I met him, at school, and he taught me all kinds of shit. And that's who I used to go to the south side with. And the south side back then was just grilled. There was graffiti everywhere. It was pretty dope. And I ended up getting into his crew. It's called DI3. And it's kind of wild because the leader of that crew, his name is Tato. You guys might know who he is, but he's a pretty well-known artist in Phoenix. And I actually did. So there's a sign that I did for APS in the city of Phoenix. It's the Welcome to Roosevelt Row sign.
Oh, sick. The big one right there?
Yeah.
Sick.
I designed that, and Tato did the mural behind it.
What about music? You mentioned music.
Oh.
What were you into, like, in high school?
Oh, man. I was into a lot. I was really into punk rock and hip hop and like techno. just those three things right there. They're doing a big retrospective on the Nevermind album right now. I think it's 30 years. It turns 30 this year, so that whole sound from the grunge sound was really big. 90s was just a really fun time. So many different music styles are being discovered, you know, or coming out. Like trip hop was big. DJ culture was pretty big. The music that I listened to really shaped who I'd be now, you know, like there's just way too many to name, literally. There's music's a huge part of my life though, and there's a whole soundtrack to like the, you know, highs and lows of everything I've been through.
Yeah.
If I could put it to music, it'd be a really cool soundtrack, you know. So there's a
future project.
Yeah, and I think about that all the time, you know, like there's instances like, oh, that would be really cool to have this track play on this scene of my life, you know, and I've actually thought about that a lot.
You have a website, your Arviso, is it 78?
Yeah.
Arviso, which is short for your last name, Arviso.
Yeah.
Arviso 78. You have that website, and then you also have the original Landlord website.
Yeah.
And those are both your companies, right?
Yeah, and then hood mats, and then left right here. I've been migrating the products from, because everything used to all be on Arviso 78, but people were getting confused. So I decided to completely create another website just for Original Landlords. But there still are products of Original Landlords on the Arviso 78. So the Arviso 78 is primarily my brand identity company. Jewelry, the watch bands, art, design, stuff like that. And then Original Landlords is just strictly apparel and accessories for the clothing brand itself. And then I have this other one called Hood Mats, where I print art, my art and other people's art on yoga mats. So it's more of a wellness company, just because I love yoga. I've been doing it since I was 17. But here's another funny story. I started doing it when I was in prison.
Wow.
Yeah, of all places. Dressed in orange, standing on my head, you know, like in front of, on the yard and shit. It was the weirdest, most awkward place to be doing that kind of stuff. But for those like 30 minutes, I didn't feel like I was in prison, you know. It was kind of a way for me, to get away. But I'd open my eyes and I'd be like, oh, fuck, all these guys are, it's just weird. But anyways, when I got out, I just kept doing it. And I've been doing it now. I do it almost every day to get people to be more active. You know, that's one of the other things I'm really an advocate for, is to, you know, be healthy, be physical, you know, and get shit done, you know, don't be lazy.
Yeah.
But those three businesses, I work on those full time. I don't have a regular job.
Go ahead and shout out the full websites before.
Oh yeah, it's originallandlords.com, hoodmats.com, and arviso78.com.
Yeah. So people order directly from the website, and then they can also order through Instagram.
Yeah. Yep.
And where else?
I have merchandise available at a store in Old Town Scottsdale called Native Art Market. And then I have stuff at Cahokia, downtown Phoenix. And then I have stuff at the Pueblo Grand Museum. Let's see. I'm always at markets. This is market season right now, so I'll be vending at several markets from here until New Year's. I'll be at one this coming weekend and every weekend until New Year's, literally. So those are, doing markets for me is really fun because I get to actually interact with people. I get to meet people I've never met in person. really get to explain the products and tell them the story behind it. Every piece has a story, you know, so I'm able to really talk about that and expand on it. They're not just buying something off, you know, off the website without no backstory. You know, I can actually tell them about everything.
Yeah.
And I usually have a bunch of other stuff too with me, so stuff that you can't get on the website. So it's
Show me this watch band.
So these are laser engraved watch bands that I started doing a couple years ago, and I got one for my birthday, an Apple Watch, and I just thought, you know what, I'm gonna try to laser this watch band, see how it looks. And I did. It looked cool, but it was all crooked, you know, and so I had to like figure out a way to make sure it lined up. So I practiced on like cardboard and a bunch of other material till I dialed it in and figured out how to get it lined up. And so the second set of straps, put them in there, engraved it, and it lined right up. Cleaned
You do
it.
the engraving yourself?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's on a laser. And so I put it on Instagram and it just blew up. So I've just been doing it ever since. This is my 11th season, so I do them every season. So yeah, next spring it'll be 3 years I've been doing it.
So
But,
when you say 11th season, you have a different design each season?
yep,
Gotcha.
yep.
And what about ones that are really popular? Do they stick around or?
Oh, I don't do. I just keep doing new ones.
Okay.
Yeah, I do that with everything. I don't really do re-releases. I just.
So you got to get it while it's hot.
Yeah, yeah. Everything's limited. Everything, you know. I do new stuff every season, so nothing really lasts, and I don't rely on one design to like keep me afloat. I just keep it moving.
Yeah.
You know, it's one thing that I always remind people who follow me and buy my stuff is like, it's just me. You know, I'm not this big brand or nothing. It's just me all by myself working on all this stuff. I don't have any partners. I don't have any assistants. I don't have any. I do have assistants for the jewelry, but I mean, other than that, it's everything is me, and I'm a human being. You know, I'm not Nike, you know, I'm not like this big, gigantic brand. It's just one human being, you know, who's trying to make a life for himself, him and his son.
Just very briefly, let's talk about the different mediums. I know you paint a lot, you do clothing, you design clothing, jewelry. Mm-hmm. What else?
I just started doing sculptures about 2.5 years ago. Very new to it. I love it. Working in 3D is so much different than flat surfaces, obviously, you know. I like that you can pick it up and hold it and like move it around. It's
are you using metal or?
Right now I've been working a lot with wood.
Okay.
Wood and acrylic. So I've been doing carving, and I've been doing, so I laser cut pieces and then I put them together into a 3D object. I've been doing a lot of that, and it's really fun to get, it's almost like industrial design. I've been doing 3D printing and just really using technology just to try something new and do things that I've never seen before. That's what I'm trying to do, is just kind of like do these.
Yeah, you're a creative guy. I mean, you're always trying new things, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Your whole life, I'm sure.
For sure.
Okay, I gotta ask you real quick about Heavy Pedal because I love those guys. This shirt here, I'm sure you guys have figured it out. Jeremy designed this. There's 4 or 5 designs, is that right?
There's three jerseys, yeah.
3 jerseys. They're absolutely beautiful. These designs on here are from your tribes?
Oh, okay, so this right here is actually my logo. This right here represents the sun, but it's also got a Hopi face in there, which I'm Hopi. This design right here is Navajo, because I'm Navajo. And then that right there is the man in the maze, but he represents the Tohono and the Pima nations. So that's all me kind of in one. This design that's around it is Wallapai, which they're the tribe who live in the Grand Canyon. The women actually wear this, and it's a net. It's like a beaded net kind of a deal. and your head goes through this, and then everything else lays on your shoulders. The top right here is from the Cocopah tribe. They're located over on the border of California where Yuma's at. This design right here that resembles wings, this is Hopi. And they're from northern Arizona. They're actually landlocked inside of the Navajo Nation.
And some of your families.
Yeah, and I'm Navajo. And the back is same thing, same as this. It's the Wallapai and the Cocopah tribe.
And then the last thing I'm going to ask you, and I see your logo there too.
Yeah.
You did an amazing job on these. When I saw these, I was just instantly drawn to them.
Yeah, thanks. Every jersey's got designs from Arizona tribes.
And then what I was going to ask you is, a lot of cyclists like really bright jerseys, and I've seen some of your work, really bright colors. So how did you decide to go with the black and white design? I love it. I'm
Yeah.
just curious.
When I first started hanging out with the heavy pedal guys, a lot of everything they did was black and white.
Okay.
So I kind of felt like I'd take it back to that old school look. And for me, the best way to translate our designs from Arizona is black and white. In my own personal opinion, there's people differ, but I think black and white, like there's so much movement going on with just these simple shapes, you know?
Yeah.
And the placement of them really helps that movement happen. And when it's in black and white, it's so monochromatic and just very strong and bold, and I thought it was perfect. Yeah, it worked out really well.
What about Instagram or Facebook or YouTube?
Instagram is at Arviso78, at Original Landlords, at HoodMatsFlex, www.rvso78, www.originallandlords.com, www.hoodmats.com. Yeah, you can get all of the other links like YouTube, TikTok, and all that other stuff there too. There's so much, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, hey man, I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, for sure, bro.
If you need to promote anything, or if you ever want to do a part 2, you hit me up.
For sure, man. Hell yeah.
I feel like we kind of just scratched the surface with you. And